Xania Monet. Now, if you guys heard about the craziness going on right now in the music industry, she is an AI artist that just signed a $3 million record deal with Wholewood Media, which is a record label previously, or that is founded by a former Interscope Records executive. And so this is pretty crazy because even if you've heard Kehlani's feedback on it thus far, she's pretty upset, which is understandably so. You hear an artist that is not a human that's not only getting on the Billboard charts, but in addition to that, getting record label deals, taking opportunities away from other artists who probably deserve these opportunities as well. And so I have a very nuanced and different perspective on this in a couple ways. I can definitely agree with Kehlani from the perspective that, yes, there are artists who are losing out on opportunities like this because you have a AI artist coming in and taking that opportunity away. And I do also believe that the use of solutions like Suno AI and things like that are coming out to create the final master recordings that are out there on streaming platforms, generating royalties, generating income. And they really haven't fully worked out yet on Suno's side how to properly distribute those royalties back to the artist that these LLMs that were trained on to generate that music in the first place. So that's a huge problem. And I believe that is going to be a solution that Suno's going to have to work out ASAP, as I'm sure that they're going through a ridiculous amount of legal suits right now at the moment. But I think this opens an opportunity actually for songwriters to finally get their fair share. And the reason why I say that is because the songwriters have struggled for a long time to have the leverage to negotiate royalties and agreements and splits on the songs that they help write and create. And the reason why I believe that AI opens a huge opportunity to solve that is because now you have a songwriter like Alicia Jones, who is the songwriter behind Xania Monet, to not only take the songwriting that they've had and present that to an artist, but now they have the ability to create a full demo from the songs that they come up with and can bring that and shop it around to other artists, other, labels and things like that to potentially convert that demo into a full-fledged song. And that's something that, for example, a songwriter may not be able to sing. They may not be able to play other instruments and things like that to make that vision come to life. And so with a solution like Suno, they can go in there and really convert and make that vision a reality. And because of that, they now have the leverage to go and make better offerings and kind of go out there almost like what an independent artist would do, is go out there and bring it to the market and show that it has value. The problem that I see is really the main issue that I see is that the master recording's not created by them, yet they are able to essentially earn revenue from that master recording and almost claim ownership to it when the AI models are utilizing other people's works to create it. And so I honestly believe what is probably the most effective way to balance this craziness is to provide in this case, the songwriter, they should get the royalties that come from the composition side of things. And maybe they get a percentage of like the master recordings royalties as well. But in general, I believe that the master recordings royalty should go to the music copyright holders that those LLMs were trained on to create that audio. And so what that means is that if the AI is utilizing, for example, your music as an artist, then you get shares of what this AI generated song creates, while Talisha, in this case as a songwriter, gets to earn from the composition side, which is what she created on her own as a human. And so I think those boundaries kind of set some way where the original copyright holders get compensated, the artist still gets compensated, they increase their leverage in showing that this song could have a lot of value if it could be redone or remade by a bigger artist that they want to have perform it. And then the other piece there, I think is really important is, in situations like this, no one wants to see an AI artist walk away with like a Grammy, right, for like a best album or something like that of the year. And I think the way that we can kind of solve that as well is that, for example, in this case, if they wanted to bring this to the Grammys committee and say, hey, we want to put up this album that Talisha or Xania created, the AI integration or usage in this use case should prevent them from getting any type of awards that are for the master recordings. So for example, the best album of the year should not be able to be awarded to an AI generated master recording because it's not made by that person. Even though it might be directed by them in terms of like, the things that they wanted to add into the song, they didn't create the song. They didn't create the recording itself. And so I think the benefit in this situation is that Talisha could still get recognition as a songwriter. So let's say, for example, this album came out and they're saying for the songwriting aspect, you could win best songwriter of the year as a human. And so I think, once again, those are the boundaries and lines that we can kind of set into place that, once again, allows us to like level the power and between like the artists, the songwriters, the producers, the labels, the management, all these other people who have their hands in these pots that allow us to kind of like at least balance them out in a reasonable way where the creatives, such as like Kehlani as a recording artist, don't feel threatened in terms of, okay, yeah, you might be able to put out this song, cool, it gives you some opportunity to like get in front of a bigger audience and also stuff, that's fine, but I know that you're not going to be able to walk away with the earnings of you're not going to be able to walk away with the earnings of that recording. You might be getting a portion of that, which is just how really any other record works for many other artists, right? And so I think that is probably like the way that we should see it. And then another thing that I thought about as well was, could a record label go out there and create a whole bunch of different AI artists and then go out there and collect Grammys based off of it and also stuff. Once again, if they are utilizing AI to generate all the lyrics, to generate the composition, to generate the master recording and all that, then no, they should not be eligible to earn from that. And I think a huge piece of this as well, in terms of the consumption of this media, is that these streaming platforms such as Apple Music and YouTube and Spotify should tag these recordings. And so it should show clearly whether or not this is an AI generated song or this is something that was made by humans. So that helps us differentiate as consumers what we're supporting and having that level of transparency there. And then the other piece of that as well is that these profiles that are behind the recordings or behind the songs that we see as consumers should also be very transparent of, for example, in Xania Monet, you don't really even know who's behind it. And I think that not only that causes a problem for other creatives, because it's like, there might be hiding behind this facade of who this AI artist is and da-da-da-da-da. And I think there's a lot of problems that they're going to deal with going down that route anyways, in terms of like shows and brand deals and all stuff, like whatever, right? But nonetheless, I think as a consumer, I would like to see, okay, Xania Monet, and then maybe in parentheses or under it, what I'm saying? It's saying like Talisha Jones is the creator of, blah, blah, blah. And then in the bio, it gives some more information, and then it's a clear tag associated with that streaming artist profile of what type of artist that they are. And I think that if Talisha Jones, for example, wants to prevent as much negativity from being associated with her as possible, she should go out of her way to try to say, how can I make it clear that the human part of this is the songwriting? So if you love this song for the lyrics, you are falling in love with my art as like what I actually create. And that gives her some credibility to her name as a songwriter, not being grouped in with the negativity of like the recording and the production and pieces that are coming from like pseudo AI. And I think that's a smarter way to go about it. I think this is an interesting time within music to kind of show where AI should be properly utilized and integrated within the creative arts, within the music industry in general. I think for myself, obviously, as like the founder of Mava, like we are utilizing AI to help artists become more effective artists and become better businessmen by being able to market their music more effectively, drive higher ROI, things like that. So we're utilizing AI to make you better at what you already do, and if anything, make you more successful for less money. And so I think that how we apply AI in music going forward is going to be very, very important, and the boundaries that we set in place that not only provide the necessary, distribution of revenue and things like that to the businesses, to the creatives, to the original holders, all those other things are going to be really important. But I think it's important to set those things up from now. And I think that especially going into the future of like, music awards and stuff like that, we need to set up those boundaries early now before all of a sudden we say, oh, Xania Monet got 10 million streams and it's got more than this other artist. So obviously people are liking it way more, which is why it should get Song of the Year. we need to prevent those things from happening. I think those are the things that we should be advocating for. So it was great to read up on this, and I hope that you guys that are watching this can kind of do some more research on this, and also kind of take a little bit of a different perspective on how AI is being utilized today and how it can be utilized properly and integrate into your flow, whether you're a producer, whether you're a songwriter, whether you're a recording artist. I think there's a lot of great ways to utilize AI, but to not replace the people that are already here, you know, like the artist. And the people who work in these positions and things like that should help empower us to make us better at what we already do.